Hey, this is Chris with Phoenix Gaming. We're going to do something a little bit different today. We're going to give you a 1 to 2 turn playthrough of a game. This game's called Firefight from Mantic Games, excuse me. There's going to be links in the description to the rules and their web store. Probably some Amazon affiliate links as well for some of the starter boxes if you're interested. It's a great way to support the channel without any extra cost to you. Before we begin, we're going to take a tour of the table. I did build it symmetrically, intentionally, and that's just for my simplicity. So everything, and what I'm going to try to do is make it based off of the measurements. So in Mantic, in Firefight, all the terrain has a height. So I would honestly say, like, this is 3 inches tall right here, this armor container. So I would just give it a height characteristic of 3. These have a 2.5, so I would just call these little ones height 2. I would give these a height characteristic of probably 4, these big shrub type things. The hill we're going to say is height 3. I don't know how tall it is, but this big hill right in the middle here, we're going to call it height 3. Hills are a little weird, and we'll kind of get into that as we go. Again, every game has its bit of jank. These are going to be height 5, 4, doesn't matter. And then these 2 pieces out here on the outside, we're just going to call them height 6. And then the craters, we could call them height 1 or we could call them height 0 and just give you cover within them. For today, we're just going to call them height 1, and basically as long as you're within the area of the crater, also you'll get cover, just for simplicity's sake. So again, the first thing you do is you make a recon roll. Let me grab, all right, video. So a recon roll is whatever command dice are given to you by your command units. It won't count tactician, like there's some orc or marauder units that give you bonus dice. I can't remember if it's the Rainmakers or if it's the melee variant, but one of them gives you bonus dice. Those won't count. It's only dice given to you by the command units. So for today, I've got a list of Plague and a list of Enforcers, and they're both going to just have 1 green. So here's the Enforcers roll. They got a 1. And then here is the Plague roll. That is a 3. So the Plague will win the roll-off. They either choose to take initiative or they give initiative to their opponent. If they take initiative, they're going to go first and they'll deploy first. So if the Plague take the initiative, they'll choose table edge, they'll deploy their whole force. And deployments are just going to be like the Dawn of War deployments. And then if they choose to give it to the Enforcers, then the Enforcers will deploy first. And then they'll get first turn. So for this, the Plague is going to take initiative. They beat the Enforcer initiative by 2. 3 minus 1 is 2. So they can deploy all but 2 of their units if they wish. And then those 2 units will get deployed at the very end after the Enforcers have deployed. Okay, we have now deployed the Plague forces outside of 2 units. We have 2 aberrations, 1 here and 1 here. Remember that your own units can block line of sight and provide cover based on height. We have a unit of ghouls here, a unit of ghouls here, and then we have the leader here. And we want to make sure that he's within 12 of a lot of things, because 12 inches is your range for inspiring, 12 inches is your range for command, orders, things like that. If he has an aura, the default is 12 inches, I believe. So now that those are all down, we put the Enforcers down. And now the Enforcers are down. I don't know if you can see them on the screen. So now the Enforcers are down. We have Assault Operatives. We have Assault Operatives. Oops. Let's fix you because you're just hanging out. We have Regular Operatives and Regular Operatives. And then we have Defender Peacekeepers. We have the Strider with the Tank Buster. And then we have regular operators, and then just regular peacekeepers, and then our captains right here. So he's got just a little bodyguard unit is what's going on there. And then again, we put a lot of stuff within 12 of him. The orders aren't as important though, because of the fact that most of, if not all of, the enforcers have what's called advanced training. And what that does is that lets you give orders to a unit even if they're not next to a command unit. So now we're going to put our mortar mule here, and then we're going to put our other strider here. And I know these aren't necessarily balanced lists. I just wanted to get a variety of things on the board so we could show you how different rules interact. So now we've deployed. Plague gets first turn. There are no scout moves to resolve, and nothing is going in reserves. So what happens now is both sides will make their regular command roll. And I'm going to do that in just a second here. I just want to make sure I get some tokens ready. So we'll start with here is the plague command roll. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You can re-roll 1 die for every command unit you have. I'm not going to re-roll any. I'll take my 5. Here's the enforcer's roll. They've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But we've got a blank here, so we'll go ahead and re-roll this because we don't run the risk of not getting anything. So we end up with 6. So the plague is going to start with 5 command points. The enforcers are going to start with 6. And we'll get ready for turn 1 now. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to activate this plague leader. He's going to give an order. Orders are typically spent, command points and orders are typically spent and given when you activate the relevant unit. Units can only be affected by 1 order at a time. So I'm going to spend 2 to go down to 3, and we're going to use his mutation aura. What that does is that gives him a 12-inch bubble of Resilient 1, Frenzy 1, and extra AP in the fight phase, or when you assault, when you melee. Now, the main thing we're looking to get from this is the Resilient 1, because we don't want to get shot off the table super early. Now, he's got a bunch of actions we can pick for this unit. We're just going to give him a sprint, which is just a double move, and we're going to keep him up by those trees. He's got a little order or activation token that's going to go next to him, and then that's going to be his turn. So we then flip over to the enforcer side. I'm going to look at this. I don't think there's going to be a lot of shooting turn 1, so I'm going to just activate these assault enforcers. They're going to sprint, and they have anti-grav. And what that means is that they can just kind of ignore most terrain when they're moving around. It's basically like a jump pack, but they don't get the fly keyword, and there's an important reason they don't. Fly keyword, especially on like vehicles, gives you extra height, makes it harder to hide. So in order to differentiate between like a jump pack or something that flies, we have just a different keyword. So they've activated. Now, if I want to, I can spend a command point and activate another unit, and I think I'm going to. If you go first, you cannot use this order, and this isn't technically an order. This is just something you can spend command points on. But what we're going to do, and because this isn't an order, that's also very important. But what we're going to do is we're going to sprint this boy up here 12 inches, and we're going to put these boys back here and give them some cover, right? So now I've activated 2 units. I cannot do that order again simply because my opponent has to activate at least 1 unit after I use that order if they're able to. We've got a bunch of stuff going on here. We've got our ghouls and we've got our ghouls. We want to try to keep things within the 12 of this handsome fella right here. So what we'll do is we'll go ahead and we're going to activate these ghouls. They're going to sprint. And then I'm not going to... When you move, you have to stay in coherency. If it's less than 10, I think if it's 10 or less models, you have to stay within 3 inches. If it's more than 10 models, you have to stay within 6. So the first thing you do is you move your leader, and then you just measure from the leader, and anybody can go anywhere you want around the leader, as long as they're within 6. So a lot of your stuff is going to be measured based off of your leader model, your sergeant, unit champion, whatever word you want to use. So he's right here. All the other models just have to be within 6, which they are. And it might be 3 for 15, but it's actually got 17 because there's 2 dogs in there. But either way, they're in coherency. So they're not going to activate again, and that's okay, because what they want is they want the enforcers to have to move up. So the enforcers are going to go, and they're going to move. I think we just sprint them, this regular enforcers operative. And as far as missions go, we're not really worried about scoring victory points. This is just to give you a basic idea of how the game works. So we move the sergeant, then we put all the models around it, and then they all just have to be within 3. And it's not wholly within, it's just within. So then they get a token, they're done. And then these ghouls are going to come and activate. I'm just trying to find the leader. He's got a funny hat. They're going to come up here. They're going to come over here. And actually, what we'll do is we'll put the leader out here, because I'm going to try to show you how shooting works now. We're going to walk you through a shoot action now. Okay, so we've got them all moved. When you go to shoot, they've done one action to move. When you go to shoot, what you do is you measure from the leader. And if the leader can see anything in the target unit, which I don't think he can, which is fine, but let's say I would have put him way out here, he could see them. You measure the distance from the leader. The distance is about 16. All of the guns that have a 16-inch range can now shoot, because the leader's within 16. So even this dude, if he was 18 inches, even though he's technically like 19 or 20 away, because the sergeant's within range, everything shoots. And it's just a way to make this game a lot easier. You're not measuring range from model to model. It does create a little bit of jank, but we'll kind of cover that when we do round 2 as it becomes more relevant. And that's okay, because every game has its own bit of jank, right? Like, you can't escape that. The Plague will go ahead and spend 1 to double activate, and we're just going to sprint this handsome fella way up. You know, every game, every tabletop game is going to have its own set of issues. And really what it boils down to is, are those issues something that you're willing to overcome? And for me, the issues that I've run into with this game are very minimal in terms of, like, them being a detriment. And that's the hallmark of a good game, is that, hey, yeah, this game has issues, but it's still very playable and it's still very fun. The enforcers are going to not double activate. And I'm just kind of going through and doing my thing. What do these move? These are aberrations. They might not move 12. They sprint 12. Perfect. And these things slap. So if they get into melee, they're going to really just give something a bad day. There's that. Bam. So what we don't want is we don't want to give that guy a free charge. So what we do is we actually move these up to here, run them around, boop, boop, and then we will spend 1 to double activate, and we'll bring this guy out and around here, and then what we're going to do is we're going to see if we can shoot. We're just outside of range. Could we have gotten him in range? I think so, if we did just slid him here. And really, this is just so we can, we'll call it within range. It's real close. This is just so we can, again, walk you through how some of this stuff works. Now, So he did one move action. And now he's going to do a second action to shoot. And remember, a sprint is not 2 move actions. It's 1 double move action is really what it is. Now, he is within 12 inches of my captain. I just need to make sure my captain's aura that I've activated. Yeah, I just wanted to make sure I activated it. Firestorm. Let's make sure it's within range. Yep, he's within 12 inches of the captain. And the captain's aura gives you Weight of Fire 1 and Vicious. Weight of Fire lets you re-roll any 1 die when you roll a hit roll. So, we've measured it. We know we're within 24. He's height 4. We're going to say there's cover here. We're going to say most of his base is blocked by height 1. And the only way you wouldn't get cover is if you're 4 levels higher. So if he were height 5, this wouldn't give cover because 5 minus 4 is 1. But because he's height 4, this does give cover because 4 minus 4 is 0. So we're going to give him cover. We're going to say most of his base is obscured, again, just for argument's sake. His gun gets 2 shots. We'll make sure it gets put up on the screen. He normally hits on 4s, but because of cover, we'll hit on 5s. So we're going to roll 2 8-sided dice. Excuse me, 2 8-sided dice. So we're going to get 2 8-sided dice, needing 5s. We got 1 hit, but we have Weight of Fire. We got 2 hits. Now, there's no wound roll, so if you're a 40k player, we skip that process, and most games do. But what he does have is an armor of 7. So that guy's got an armor of 7. And then the shooting strider has... Okay, so we got 2 hits. This strider has an armor of 7. This strider has a gun with an AP of 4. So, as the attacker, I roll damage dice. My target number is 7, minus an AP of 4 is 3. And then because he's within the captain's aura, he's going to have Vicious 1, meaning he's going to reroll all damage dice of 1. So 3s rerolling 1s, that's a 2 and a 4. So I can't reroll this one. He's not within 12 of this fella, so he cannot benefit from this fella's aura of Resilient 1, and even if he did, Resilient is shut off by AP 3 and higher. So 1 goes through, there's no armor saves, like I roll your armor save. 1 goes through, and then this has devastating D2 plus 1. And D2 means you're rolling a D2. So highs is 2, lows is 1. So that's a low, so it's a 1 plus 1. So this takes 2 damage. And then because it takes damage from an anti-tank weapon, it gets a pin marker, which we'll put down next to it right there. And then got 3 left. Now, the pin marker isn't a big deal yet, but as the game progresses, you're going to find how they can be very important in mitigating action economy. I'm going to finish out the rest of this turn really fast, and then we'll cut to turn 2. Before we cut to turn 2, I do want to show you how this fellow will work. He's got the Toxic Mortar. He's going to shoot. He's not going to move. He's got a special rule where if he doesn't move and only does a long action to shoot, it's like a take aim or a steady aim action. I forget what it's called. He gets +1 to hit, but if he doesn't take a steady aim action, he's always -1 to hit. So if it does a regular shooting action, it's -1 to hit. But again, that's not going to matter because we're going to shoot without line of sight anyway. Because what we're going to do is we're going to shoot, we'll just shoot those boys. So when you fire indirect, you always hit on 7s. You can never hit on better than 7s. Heavy charges, we have shrapnel shells, and we have toxic gas canisters. We're going to use toxic gas canisters. It's going to be 5 dice, and it's going to hit on 7s. Normally it would hit on 5s. So we're going to fire indirect. We're going to hit on 7s. It ignores all modifiers, so we don't even need the steady aim. We just can do our 1 action to shoot. So we're going to do that. We're going to fire the toxic gas canisters, which are blast, D2, and indirect. So here we are hitting on 7s. We got 1, 2. So now we roll those again for blast, and highs gives me an additional, lows just stays 1. So we got 2 6s, that's a high and a high, so we got 4 hits. These have no AP, and my boys have an armor of 6. So I need 6s here. So I got 1, 2, 3, so that does 3 damage, and I'm just going to make a note of that right now. And then toxic damage splashes, so I can immediately roll for toxic. And with toxic, if you do a damage, you roll the die again, and if you get a 6, it does an additional damage. So we roll them all again. Oh my gosh! So we do 6 total damage. Toxic only works once, it won't trigger again. My guys are 2 health points, but that means I just lost 3 of my models. So we come over here. The unit champion or sergeant has to be the last model removed. These 3 come off, and they're just dead as a doornail, as the kids say. I think that's what kids say. I don't know. I don't listen to kids when they talk. So, I wanted to walk through indirect. So now we'll cut over to round 2 in just a second. We have a few things to do in the end phase. So, in the end phase, you can spend 1 command point to remove pin tokens from models. We had 2 left for the plague, so we'll do that. We don't have any over here, but we do need to make a nerve check. If you're under half strength, you have to make a nerve check. These boys have a nerve of 3 up. Whoo! If they had a pin marker, they'd be -1. And if there was only 1 of them left, they'd be -2, and those would stack. So now, that's the end phase. We remove all the activation tokens. I'm going to do that and then cut to round 2. Okay, round 2, the enforcers finished activating first, so they get priority. So we know that that's in range, but I don't know if I want to activate there yet. Oh, first we need to do our rolls. I'm just going to roll them. I'm not going to put them on the camera this time. So the plague get 2, 4, 5, and we get to re-roll one of these for 7. So we'll just put that at a 6 for now. And then the enforcers will get 2, 4, 5, 6. Perfect. And we'll actually just throw that one up there. So now we've got to decide what we want to do. What I want to do first is make sure this dude can't charge me. And so far he cannot. Can he get there? And a charge is either a regular movement or a double movement, and you get bonuses from the double movement, but you don't really get much for the regular movement. So I don't necessarily need to worry about that guy right away. So the real question becomes, because I don't need to worry about him, do we just keep moving up? Where do we go, right? So what I think I'm going to do is I think I'm going to activate my captain's squad again. We're going to pop his aura again. And then what I think we're going to do is we're going to move him. Actually, I think we move him up here. They'll have cover, but we're just going to throw dice at them anyway because these guys are a pain in the butt, right? So we have, are they within 18 is the question. And again, you just measure to the unit leader, but they would all be within 18. They have Dominator rifles, so it's going to be 3 dice per rifle. 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. So we're going to hit on 4s, but they're going to have cover because most of the unit is blocked off by something. So that's going to be -1 to hit. So we're going to hit on 5s with weight of fire 1. Again, meaning I can re-roll 1 die. And then vicious 1. So weight of fire 1 on 5s. So we drop 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh my gosh, 5, 6. So we drop most of them. Weight of fire gets me an 8, so we get 4 hits. Ghouls are armor value 5. And Dominators are AP 1, so we're going to be on 4s with Vicious 1. So 4s, re-rolling 1s. So that's going to be 2 dead ghouls. That's it. These dice do not love the Enforcers. Now, I just take any 2 models. We're going to take these 2 in the... Not him. He's got a machine gun. We're going to take these 2 in the back here. And then we're going to end our activation. So the ghouls... The plague, what we're going to do is we're going to see if we can clear them out right now. We're going to tag them with the mortar again. We're going to get 5 dice hitting on 7s. We're going to immediately see if we can clear that really close unit out, because as long as they're right there, that's a very dangerous unit, even if it's just 2 of them, because they have a special ability called counter charge, which means if I charge them, I'm in a tight spot. So we're on 7s. Fate did not help us this time, because we got 0 hits. So what I think we do is we go ahead and spend 1 and immediately activate the leader, and then spend 2 more, because remember, the double activation isn't an aura, and we just pump up and we get that aura in there so we can get the resilient and the bonuses. Now, his sprint is 12. There is an order I could have popped that allows things to move extra, but then I don't have any of the bonuses. So I think we just kind of inch him up, and that's where he goes. Bam. And don't worry, we will get into melee pretty soon here. I'm just trying to really move along and show you like the flow of the game. And as you can see, the game flows fairly quickly. You can play a game of about 1,250 points in anywhere from 1.5 hours to 2 hours. So we're going to activate this Strider. We're going to move him up here, and we should be able to move in a way that shuts off the cover. We do. And then we're going to be within 12 of the captain. So now we're going to shoot him again. This time we're going to hit on 4s with Weight of Fire. We hit once, Weight of Fire 1. We get to re-roll a die. That's 2 hits. And we're going to damage on 3s, re-rolling 1s. And we got another 2. All right. So now D2 plus 1 for another 2 damage. But what's important here is this guy gets a pin token. And because it happened before he activated, when he activates, he has to spend an action to shed that pin token, meaning he can either shoot or move, but not both. And he can't double move to charge. He can only single move to charge. So that is where that becomes important. But we're going to get cheeky. We're going to spend 1 to double activate also. We're going to activate these handsome fellas. And then we're going to spend nothing. So what we'll do we bring them here? It's not going to matter. You're going to have cover. So we'll bring them out here. We'll be within 18. And then we'll just kind of... Bam. No. We're actually going to take it the other way. And the reason we take it the other way is because then I'm in this flamethrower range, and we don't want that. We don't want to give you free bonks. And then this also gets me in that charge lane so that we can see how charges work relatively quickly. Okay. And we're going to do a few things here. We're going to shoot, and then we're going to spend 2 to give them a special rule so that you can see how some of these special rules trigger. So we're going to... And their special command order that they're getting specifically says it activates at the end of their activation. Remember when I said usually it activates at the start, but this order specifically says at the end of their activation. So we have 3 laser rifles. The laser pistol might be within range, as long as they're within 12. They are within 12. The laser pistol has the same profile, so we'll throw it in. We're going to hit on 4s, but 5s because of cover. And we're going to get Weight of Fire 1. So 5s re-rolling a single die. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4. And then we get to re-roll a die, but I'm going to save that. And I should have started with something else, but that's okay. And then these are ghouls, so 5s because there's no AP. All right, so we've got 3 damages that are successful. Now, these have Resilient 1 because they're within range of him. There's no AP on any of my attacks coming out of here, so it doesn't matter where I Resilient. Resilient makes you, the shooter, reroll 1 of these successful damage dice. It's still successful, so I kill 3. So we know that 3 are going to die. So now we fire the burst laser, and this is where I should have rolled this first because of weight of fire. If the burst laser hits, which it did, but we'll wait a fire there, we get 4 hits. As long as it gets a single hit, it gives out a pin token. Let me see if I can find one. If not, I'll just throw a regular token. So it gives out a pin token to them. So again, when they activate, they are going to lose one of their actions. And then we're damaging on 5s. So 1 more, so 4. So we lose 4. We're going to kill both of the dogs just because they don't count towards unit strength when determining nerve. So the dogs are what are called drones, and they're not free, but in some ways they're kind of like free models because they don't make you roll nerve checks when they die. So that's going to be their activation. I am going to spend that 2, and what that 2 is going to do is they get to go into Overwatch, which means they're eligible to make charge reactions because you have to either be in Overwatch or you have to have not activated in order to make charge reactions. And they can't be pinned for the rest of the turn. But we're within 12 here, so we're going to charge. Can we do it in a straight line? We can. We have line of sight, so he can go straight forward, touch them with line of sight, so he's going to get all the charge bonuses. But because they have an Overwatch token, they get to use controlled fire and shoot while he charges in. And that's why I wanted to do this, because now you get to see controlled fire, you get to see a charge reaction, you get to see a charge, and even if we accidentally kill him on the charge reaction, it's okay, because we're just going to resolve the combat anyway. So, controlled fire is just a regular shoot, ignoring all ranges, and -1 modifier. So these are all going to hit on 5s. Because they're making a shoot action, they get the benefit of this aura, because the aura specifically says all units within 12 gain these keywords. And they're making a shoot action. And if I'm wrong on that, feel free to correct me in the comments. But these are going to hit on 5s because they're -1. And then this big aberration has an armor of 7. So we need 7s here, re-rolling 1s. 1 damage. He does have resilient, so I'm going to make them re-roll it so it fails. And then the burst laser on 5s gets a single hit, which is important because that will give him a pin marker, which will give him a -1 to hit, which will effectively negate the +1 to hit it's going to get for charging. Although I don't think it's going to matter. And then on 7s, he does take 1 damage. And let me see what this aberration has, because he may have something else also. Beast, bulky, regeneration, terrifying, and unflinching. To terrifying, nerve. Oh, so I technically should have made a nerve check first, which I make. Had I failed it, they'd have gotten a pin marker, and then they wouldn't have been able to shoot. So again, very important. And this is where knowing your keywords is going to be very key. He takes 1 damage. He has 5 hit points, so he's going to have 4 left. So now, in melee, he gets 6 attacks, 4. And because I had line of sight, and I could charge in a straight line, I get fight first, because I did a double move with line of sight in a straight line. It's not a hindered charge. And I get +1 to hit. However, having a pin marker also makes me -1 to hit, so I'm only going to hit on 3s instead of 2s. But he also gets, from the Plague Aura of the leader, let me find him again, because he gets some stuff. He gets Frenzy 1, which lets him re-roll a single die on the hit side. And then he also gets bonus AP. So this is about to be real bad. So these are on 3s with a single re-roll. All right, so 5 of them hit. These are AP 3. I'm armor 6, so 3s. And it's actually AP 4, so 2s. But it doesn't matter. And the reason it's 4 is because of the aura. So 4 go through. So that kills 2 guys off rip. Because my guys are just kind of meaty. The enforcers are a little bit chunkier. Now, the regular operatives get a single attack. These are going to hit on... Ooh, do they hit on 4s or 5s? They might hit on 5s. Because the melee guys shoot on 5s. These guys melee on 4s still. Okay. So we're going to hit on 4s with 2 attacks. Both of them hit. We're going to damage on 7s. Neither of them go through. And then we get 2 attacks from the sergeant. These hit on 4s. 1 goes through. And then they're AP 2, so 5s. Because they're gauntlets. He's got like a fisto, basically. 1 goes through. I'm going to resilient that, because we didn't resilient the other one. And then it fails to go through. So what happens now is the Plague won the assault, so he can immediately remove his pin token. These boys immediately run 6 inches directly away from him. And normally, they would get a pin marker, but the aura that, or the unit, the thing that I activated on them, the order, says they can't be pinned for the rest of the turn. But they will lose Overwatch because they lost the assault. Now, he gets to do that, and then he moves 3 inches in any direction, but it can't be used to tie up another unit. Now, they do have a special rule that allows them to, but that's how melee works. If these had not been activated, and they lost the assault, they would also get an activation token. So like I said, it's very important, melee is, for controlling the action economy of the game. So that's the Plague turn. So now we're going to come over to this side. All right, so we can get them here. Shoot there. They'll have cover. That's okay. Because I don't think I can go this way. Actually, I could. But they won't have range then. Whereas they have range here. Yeah. So we'll move these boys out. These boys always go into Overwatch after they activate. They get an activation token. They're going to shoot. So we have 1 Dominator rifle on 5s because of cover. 3 hits. On 4s because of AP 1. 3 die. They do have Resilient 1. Still 3 die. And then the Burst Laser. 2 hits. And then 1 more dies. So they'll get a pin from the Burst Laser. And then... Boop, 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 boop. Excuse me. I think it was 3 died? Maybe it was 2. We'll kill 3. That's okay. Now, we're gonna... Can't charge there, so we're not gonna double activate. And then what we're gonna do with the Plague is we're gonna activate those ghouls, I think. Let me find my orders, because they're within 12. Beast, bulky, heavy armor, indirect, it burns. Oh, orders, that's what I needed. You goose. Combustive deformities, nope, not yet. We may not even get to that one today. So we could do that one, and it's funny. So actually, I think we will for now. We're going to spend 1 for the ghouls to do what's called a Tenacious Advance. And you can only use each order once. So once you use it, that's it. You can't use it again that turn. But what that's going to do is we're going to... Do we want to do it with these? Yeah, we're already committed. And that's going to move him up here so we can make sure we've got line of sight back. And that's fine. They get a free 3-inch movement that they cannot use to get into melee. They'll spend an action to shed that. And what that does is that just lets me get a movement and then shoot. So we're going to shoot back. They get 1 shot each. We've lost 3 of them. So we're going to get 12 shots. 3, 4. But not really, because we have a machine gun and a grenade launcher. So we're going to get 10 shots. 2, 4, 6, 7, 8, 10. On, I think, 6s? Sounds about right for ghouls. Well, let's roll them, and then we'll look. That's, god dang, those dice really like ghouls. Yep, they shoot on 6s. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And we're shooting here. These boys are armor 8. And I think they're resilient 1. So we got 1. I'm going to resilient that one so none go through. And then we get a machine gun hitting on 6s. We got 3 hits, which does pin them because the machine gun's pinning. We'll just throw this go to ground token on them for now. And then 8s, nothing. And then a grenade launcher, which gets 1 shot on 6s, nothing. But if it would have hit, it would have been blast D4. So 1 hit could turn into 2, 3, or 4 hits. But they do have a pin token. They have gone. So the fact that they're on Overwatch doesn't matter because the pin means they cannot make the, cannot make the charge reaction. And really, that is where we're going to wrap this up. We've kind of shown you a little bit of how the game interacts and how it flows. It's a lot of back and forth. It's a lot of talking. It's a lot of information sharing. Knowing your interactions is very important. You know, knowing that these have controlled fire, these have counter charge, really means there's a lot of strategy in how you interact and activate. You know, and actually understanding, let's show you heavy armor real quick, just so you can kind of see how that interacts, and then we'll kind of go from there. And we'll say that this is a makeable charge, just so we can show you heavy armor. So they'll charge in to this thing. He's got a pin token, so it doesn't matter. We're going to have 2, 4, 6, 8 wrist blades. They're going to hit on 3s because they charged. We drop 2, but they're AP 1. So he 6s because he's armor 7 minus 1. So we got 3 that go through. But he's got heavy armor. So every one that goes through, you actually have to confirm it by re-rolling those into a 5 or higher. So we would have gotten 2 more, and AP doesn't apply to this second one. So we would have gotten 2 more to kill him. However, even if they missed, we've got the gauntlets, which would have missed, but let's say they hit. Their AP2 goes to 5s, and then his seismic makes that confirmation on 4s rather than 5s. So that would still kill him. And that's how heavy armor works, and anything with anti-tank, like this guy's gun, just ignores that rule. So that's how the game works. That's how it flows. Again, I can't recommend it enough. It's a lot of fun. It's very interactive. And I hope that this little walkthrough helps everybody out there. And before we leave, I do want to give a shout out once again to Military Gaming Command. For those that don't know, they are just a fantastic group of people that I have worked with throughout the past. They are a veteran nonprofit organization that is very near and dear to me because they use gaming to create a sense of community. There will be a link in the description. Feel free to check out what they do. Feel free to donate. You know, I don't get paid for them to support them or anything. I just really believe in what they do. I know a lot of the guys on the board, at least to some extent. We've played some games together. We've had some offline chats together, and they're just a great group of dudes. So thanks a lot. Hope you enjoyed it. Have a good one.